you know, we have some customers that they really don't maybe fully understand, you know, what is the true benefit of breathing these salt products. And we talk about it all the time, but I like hearing it from you because you, like you said, you've been doing this for so long, and you've seen all types of you know, conditions and treatments and things happening. So if you were just to talk to somebody about it,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Well, you know, salt isn't something that people don't know about. They have a different context, right? People know salt in terms of cooking, and now people know salt by the ocean, or people will know salt, you know, from a variety of different contexts. People, you know, have neti pots, gargling with salt water. So
Yes.
salt isn't strange for people in that regard. And so people kind of have an already idea about that. Salt is somehow therapeutic, even in nebulizers, right? Most drugs have sodium chloride in them to help assimilate into the body and into our system. So the context around it is, this is all about dry salt. And so dry salt, when you inhale these micron-sized particles, and when I mean micron, we say that because people really don't understand how small that is. And so if you took a piece of hair out, it's about 50 microns to 70 microns in diameter. So 1 micron is really small, and submicron sizes as well. So that's what's getting deep into the respiratory system. Now, because it's dry, it has a tendency to pull moisture out. And that's where there's been some interesting studies now about putting sodium chloride in masks, that there's some research happening right now up in University of Alberta, where when the salt crystal absorbs moisture, it pulls out. And so the droplets that are out in the air that we're so concerned about, that if this face mask, what it does is it strips the virus cell completely of moisture and kind of suffocates it. So there's some interesting studies being done about it, but in terms of just how we inhale it, it pulls out the mucus. Our bodies need salt in our system. And so if we don't, we get a lot of extra mucus inside. So there's, just from that perspective, I know I had cancer a few years ago and had a tracheotomy in me. And I was getting a lot of radiation treatment for a tumor that I had. And the salt therapy helped facilitate all of that. So people that have asthma and allergies, this is something that impacts them. Also, from a point of view, is that salt is anti-inflammatory. It's natural. It's kind of like why we put salt on meat. It opens it up. So likewise, our airway passages. So people that have COPD or want extra lungs, this is why we do it for racehorses. We've been doing a lot of salt therapy for stables where we have converted farms into salt rooms.
Okay.
They have, you know, 200-liter lungs, huge lungs, and they're tremendous athletes. And so there's a lot of work being done about how this really impacts the oxygen capacity, which is part of what we're looking at here with this, you know, virus and other things that affect us. And then it's antimicrobial. It's, you know, meaning it does, for many bacteria and virus, stops from spreading. We can't make any claims about the coronavirus, the particular one right now, because we haven't studied that. But there's some general ideas about what salt does for our respiratory system. And there are studies that have been done. There needs to be more. And we actually have a couple that we hope are going to get started right away. But that's part of where I think it is. So I don't think it's a far stretch for people to understand it. There could be a lot to say, but I think that the simplest things I always revert to is how it's super absorbent, how it's anti-inflammatory, and how it's, you know, antibacterial. You know, people understand that aspect. Right. Likewise with skin, you know, when you talk about exposing it, people that get breakouts from psoriasis or eczema is from inflammation. And because of these micron sizes, it really gets into that first epidermis layer, and it provides relief for people.
And I think that's important in what you were saying. A lot of it's respiratory. We have, because we get so many people saying, well, what if I have high blood pressure? Or, you know, well, how's it going to affect us? And when we say, well, it's not, it's respiratory, it's not digestive, right? So
Right.
what if somebody says, well, yeah, but what if I'm opening my mouth and it's coming in, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a little bit coming in there, but I don't think it's anything that's
No, I mean,
major
you
scale.
know, people always should, you know, consult with their physicians if they have any questions, right? But there hasn't been any known side effects of that with people with hypertension or high blood pressure or different things, where there's been any adverse side effects to this.
Mhm.
The amount of salt that is being utilized in a halo generator and the size of the room and what people are exposed to is somewhere around 10 to 24 microns per cubic meter. And so when you think about it in the invisible of what we can't see, it's not a lot of salt. And to your point, it is something that is going through the respiratory system. And so it affects it differently in terms of where it's cleaning out into the system, into our organs and our trachea and all of that.
Mhm.
So it's a different mechanism, but there are a lot of people that will have a perception, oh, salt's bad for me. You know, I'm on a low sodium diet. You know, what's it going to do to my hair or to my eyes? And so a lot of people have this vision that you're going to be walking into this steam room full of salt, you know, and it's almost as if you can't see it unless you hold up a light to it, you know. So, but it is, you know, there's a lot of people that also think, oh, the Himalayan salt, that's where all the benefit is from. You know, it's, oh, look, yes, I get these negative ions or the, you know, the salt particles come from the core. And I think that's big, that's even more of a misconception than anything else.
We stress that with our, when we explain everything, we tell people it is just strictly for looks. You know, there's no health benefits for that glowing wall or the salt on the floor. It's just something cool to walk in
Right.
and sit around. You know, it's just the
Right.
ambiance and the experience that you're getting.
Yeah.
It's just
But the ambiance matters, you know, it's, look, we're partly in that business, as you know. So I love the decor. We've got some amazing projects that we've been doing. I mean, this is what's also exciting about the industry. On one end, you have folks like you in the communities that are really committed to community wellness. And then you've got institutions where, whether it's the Hard Rock or it's new luxury residences being built or country clubs wanting this, people are really seeing the value. We've been doing a lot of private homes. It's really interesting in that marketplace, you know, in what you're seeing now. And we're coming out with some new concepts now. We have somebody that we're actually doing a container, like a shipping container overseas, where they're converting that all into a salt room.
Oh my gosh.
We're just recently designed one that can be in a 20-foot container. And so there's some interesting things that are evolving. We have somebody who wants to convert an ambulance into a mobile salt room and part of it. So we're busy engineering some interesting stuff, but you're seeing this kind of, I think, evolution of the industry that's going to keep going. And I think it's important with these other modalities too. You know, I haven't floated in a long time. I remember the first time I did a flotation tank. Back then it was sensory deprivation.
Yes.
After seeing the movie Altered States. And
77 when that came out or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, I did it. It was a place in Coconut Grove called the Womb Rooms, being back in the womb. And each room was decorated a little bit differently and had its own kind of hippie, trippy kind of vibe. And that's kind of what we did, and then go into a tank, and that's trip back and trip out for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
we've had some customers ask, am I going to have hallucinations and stuff like that? I'm like, not likely. You know, you're not going to be comfortable enough your first session to really get into that state of mind. It takes float sessions to really get comfortable in it.
Sure. And while there's I wouldn't say a stigma around that, I do think between what's out there with CBD and medical marijuana and being able to really get mindful of doing flotation or taking a breath and doing these things, I think we are seeing a lot of interesting ways that people can get well and stay well. And, you know, it's interesting to see where it's going to go.